Welcome on in, folks. This is Spruce and Studs, and well, monetary resources are limited for the vast majority of us, and if we have money to spend on figures, we are also going to be very limited on space. So at some point in time, we're going to be either strapped for cash and have to make some real life decisions on what action figures to buy. Also, we are going to unfortunately run out of space in our time of collecting. So in this video, I'm going to help you objectively decide whether or not to buy a figure, as well as what you should do after you have bought a figure, but you have run out of space and subsequently you want to buy more figures. Some people may need this advice, while other people probably may not, so just take it or leave it. But my advice can be applicable to any hobby or collection, whether it be virtual or physical. So on the virtual side, to be honest, I actually used to be an avid Pokemon Go player. So there is a limited amount of Pokemon you can collect dictated by your bag space. Eventually, you'll need to pony up the money to expand the amount of Pokemon that you can have in your collection. But anyways, I digress. So first of all, there should be some questions that you need to ask yourself before you decide on buying a figure or not. The biggest question is, can I afford this figure? Obviously, you should never spend any money on a figure if you cannot afford it. There are other things that are a lot more important than plastic crack. Then there are other questions that you need to ask yourself if you have the money to buy a figure is, well, why am I getting this figure? Do I love the figure? Do I like the figure? Or do I have a bond with the figure, and or all of the above? So here is an example of, do I have a bond with the figure? Now, there was a video that I released not too long ago where I featured the version 2 of the Blade Guard, which had the Salamanders, the Dark Angels, as well as the White Consuls. And there were some questions as to why I did not buy the White Consuls one. And the direct answer to your question is, well, I really don't have a bond with the White Consuls. So I made it a point to basically collect all of the first founding Space Marines, and that was pretty much it. The only other Space Marines that kind of deviated from this was the Grey Knights as well as the Black Templars. I really love those two chapters. But the White Consuls, I really don't know that much about. And I believe that they were featured in the fluff somewhere, and I really don't read the fluff. So obviously I don't have a bond with this particular figure, so that's why I decided not to get it. So here's an example of, do I like or love the figure? Case in point, the recently announced Desolation Marines. Well, I'll have to say, folks, I absolutely abhor those missile launchers or Desolation launchers. I don't even know anything about them because I think the overall design of it is absolutely goofy. It looks terrible, and I just wish they would just use the missile launcher people from the tactical squads. So there is no way I would get these action figures for my personal collection, nor would I actually ever get these for the channel either, just because I just don't like the design. So with regards to the Adeptus Mechanicus Skitarii Rangers, I'm not really that much of a fan of their design either. I think they're like spiky, they're all over the place, and they just look strange to me. So I'm not even going to get this for the channel either. So here's an example of why am I getting this action figure. The Grey Knight Nemesis Dread Knight is one of those figures in which, well, it's an interesting one for me. I really love the Grey Knights, and I like the moving bits that are on this particular action figure, and I love how it is battery powered, and I really love the lights that light up on it. It's likely the most complicated action figure that Joy Toy will be releasing, depending on when this video gets released, to date. The thing is, I absolutely hate the design of it. It looks really weird having an action figure strapped to the front of it, literally like a baby carrier. But I decided to make an exception because I think the positives of this action figure outweigh the negatives. So I pre-ordered this action figure for the channel because I know that people are going to be curious about this and watch. As I will say, when I get my grubby little hands on this action figure, I would really not buy this if I did not have the channel. On a side note, do not be afraid of FOMO or fear of missing out. Obviously, if a company states that a particular figure is going to be a one-off release, then yeah, the FOMO is probably going to ensue. But regardless, action figure companies such as the primary one for our Warhammer 40K action figures, which is Joy Toy, has done numerous re-releases of very popular action figures such as the Victrix Guard, Castellan Crow, the Blade Guard, as well as many others. They also have increased manufacturing as the popularity of these action figures have grown. Most figures actually stay on the shelf or virtual shelves, whatever you want to call it, for a lot longer. So Robute Gilman was released months back, but he's actually still available on most websites. I thought that he was going to be an instant sellout, but lo and behold, I was proven wrong. So what happens when you run out of space and you want to buy more figures? Well, my recommendation is to actually start collecting vertically. What I mean by that is you want to buy more shelving, or better yet, display cabinets and cases. So these display cabinets allow you to maximize space because, well, horizontal space is at a premium for most of us. Also, if your figures are in display cabinets, there is an added benefit to you never needing to dust your figures. I absolutely abhor dusting figures, so I actually put most of my collection in these display cabinets. Now, secondly, to even maximize more space within your display case, you can also collect up in that display case as well. So how do you do that? Well, you buy risers. They keep things neat, tidy, and concise, and you can have things on different levels, so you can display these things rather nicely. So these risers really prevent the overclutter and maximize the space. So unfortunately, at some point in time, despite you evaluating, contemplating, maximizing space, you're just going to have way too many figures. And this is the exact situation in which I am at. So right now, I have to really pick and choose what I display. So the questions that I ask myself again, which is, do I like or love the figure? So for example, I think the Dark Angels, Lazarus, as well as the Master are really good figures. And I told you that during the action figure review. But I know that Azrael as well as the Lion are coming out. And as I consider Lazarus and the Master as lesser figures, they likely will be swapped out by the Lion as well as Azrael, because those two action figures are more poignant figures than the former that I have mentioned. And plus, from the pictures of those two, I think I probably liked Azrael and the Lion more. Another example was that at one point in time, I had all three of the generic Salamander's intercessors displayed in my display case. When Agatone came out, he is a better and more intricate looking action figure than the regular intercessors, so obviously I swapped out one of the regular intercessors with Agatone. So there are exceptions to the rules that I've made because of, well, pure love. So as you all know, Blood Angels are my favorite chapter, and I have vowed to display every single Blood Angels action figure that Joy Toy is going to produce. They will take the most priority. So I will need to eventually migrate my Blood Angels from their 4-tier display case up to a 5-tier display case. So with all these action figures I have decided not to display, I actually put them into their original box to keep things straight. However, these boxes I've realized take a lot of space. So I actually have put all of these into storage containers and stack the storage containers on top of each other because, like I said, storing vertically is a great way to maximize your space. If you are completely strapped on space, then I would probably just take these boxes and just chuck them and take the accessories in each and every single one of those boxes and put them into plastic bags and label them. As a last resort, if there are way too many action figures that you know what to do with, you're going to have to sit down and reevaluate all these purchased products. If there are figures that you know that you're never going to display again, then I would recommend you to sell them off. There are plenty other websites such as eBay or Facebook Marketplace that you can unload these action figures off. There's really no point in keeping them around, as they take up valuable resources and you can actually recuperate some of the money that you have spent. So thank you for tuning in, members of the chapter, to this bit of, I suppose, unsolicited advice video. I hope that you enjoyed this bit of original content that's separated from my regular reviews. I really like having a break between all of these rapid fire Joy Toy releases so I can actually produce some original content for you all. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.